She first. First, leader, greatness, hope, and dreams. Women have defied the norm and pushed through the barricades to change culture, technology, and life as we know it. Come listen to our weekly podcast and be inspired by the incredible stories of women and how they managed to be the first in a world that encourages women to be second. What are you waiting for? Be first. She is strong, she is deliberate, she is brave. She first.
Welcome to the She First podcast, where we will be having amazing conversations with women that have both been influenced by being first or actually are first. My name is AliceMary, and I will be your host. Sit back and enjoy the conversations. Hello, everybody. Yes, I am your host. I am so excited to be doing this. This is something I have wanted to do for about a year and a half. And if I'm completely honest with myself, I had to master the courage and the willpower to sit down and do this. I'm going to start off by talking a little bit about myself and who I am and what makes me who I am. And then we can go from there. So I am a firstborn out of 3 lovely sisters. I enjoy that position very, very, very much. I love my 2 little sisters. Well, now they're not too little because they're grown women at this point. But yes, I'm a firstborn daughter. And that in itself has put me in a position to learn a lot, to learn how to carry myself, what to do to make myself a better human being, but also has taught me so many lessons in regards to how to treat people and how to show love. So that is something I proudly wave the flag of being a firstborn. I grew up in Uganda, born and raised in Uganda. My parents are evangelists, and I could say part-time farmers, because that's technically how they would like to represent themselves. And they have been the most supportive, the biggest support system I could ask for. So I grew up in Uganda. I went to a couple nursery schools and a couple of primary schools and a couple high schools too. And I think that in itself is a representation of how being a firstborn child, you are the try and error when it comes to how to best take care of a child. So I did learn so much. I did make a lot of friends as well. So I am grateful for that experience. But yeah, I did go to a bunch of different schools. I was also a little cheeky here and there. But at the same time, I did go from I did attend a various schools. And I'm grateful for that, 100%. So I grew up back home, with my parents. We grew up with my cousins. We have 2 cousins. They're like my big sisters. We grew up together. So we were a house full of females. And yeah, my dad was the only man in the house. So that was interesting as well, because he blended in perfectly. And I take my hat off to girl dads who have girls, because we can be a handful. So that is a little bit about me. So in 2013, I moved to Canada to pursue a higher education. After I graduated high school, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. After I graduated high school, I went and attended a course, a graphic design course, for 9 months. And I did learn a lot from there. It kind of built up my entrepreneurial skills. And I can only say that those 9 months taught me, or gave me a push when it came to my entrepreneurial self and my hustle. I did learn a little bit more. Oh, I was pushed in a position to hustle some more. So I did that, and then I convinced my parents that I would like to leave the country and attain a higher education in graphic design. I cannot thank my parents enough for believing in me and trusting that I'm leaving the country and going to a different continent to pursue an education in something that they had just learned pretty much about. And they did. They trusted me. I paid for my tuition, and I traveled, and I came to Canada, and I did a 3-year program in graphic design. Loved it. Learned so much from it, and graduating was not just for me. I think graduating in that moment was, yes, a thank you to my parents for believing in me, but also for me, it was setting an example for my siblings in a way of, you've been sent out there. It was a struggle. You got homesick and everything, but you made it through. And being the first one sent out here, being the first in itself, or maybe might have been an example of what it means to be first. But also I stuck through it. I pushed through it. There's times where I really, really wanted to go home, where I missed my mom and my dad. But the expectation was for me to graduate and succeed. So I pushed through. Some of the things that I did while I was in Niagara College, I think growing up in primary school and high school, I was a go-getter from the go. I was a student leader. I was a prefect. I was a sports prefect because I was very, very active. And I think being a leader was literally ingrained in me. So after, coming out of that experience and coming out here, there was a little bit of a difference when it came to culture shock, and everything was done a little bit differently, but I pushed through and made it work. So I said, I'm going to go and attempt to be a student leader in college. Funny story is, when I saw the opportunity to do so, I had originally planned to run for a director of communications and media, because it was along the lines of, what I thought I was good at. But the vice president position was vacant. And I told my parents, and I'm like, I'm attempting to run for student government, but, and this is what I'm trying to run for, but I think I will try to run for student government vice president. So mind you, this is my second year in college, and my second year in the country. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go for it. So I do the necessary steps that need to be done to run for the position, and I actually get it. So I actually become a student union vice president for the Welland campus at Niagara College. I was nervous. So usually when it came to those positions like vice president, president, a vice president would usually be a director that was already a director maybe the previous year, right? They have experience with the organization and therefore can step into the role as a vice president. But look at me coming straight out of Uganda a year into Niagara College, and I'm trying to be a vice president. It was a little challenging, but I learned so much. There's so much that I learned from being part of the student union, and I learned how to make my voice heard, as well as represent those whose wasn't. Made some really good friends till today, still have some really good friends that I still talk to. So that was a challenge in itself, but I loved it. And I enjoyed it. So I do this position for 2 years. I go again, I run again, and I'm vice president again. And I'm graduating, and I decide to run for president. And I figure I've been vice president for 2 years. I know the ropes. Why don't I shoot my shot and be the president? To be completely honest, I was scared. I was super scared because the person that was president prior, a very good friend of mine, Shane Malcolm, he was an amazing president. He set a really high standard for student leadership. And everywhere I went, there was that comment that people kept throwing out there: you're going to have huge shoes to fill. And it was a running joke that we had. When anybody threw that out there, I'd be like, well, I don't think we wear the same type of shoes. I like heels. So he did a really good job setting precedent for what a good leader is. So I figured with that as an example, I was going to attempt to be the first female Black student union president at Nago College. I went through the whole process. I went through the entire process of running and being elected. And the campaigns were very intense, and I had to go around talking to students. I can vividly remember the entire process and the minutes when they announced that I had actually won the presidency. It was mind-blowing, and I was so grateful and thankful for that opportunity. So I did that, spearheaded a couple of campaigns. The Consent is Key campaign, I can remember that clearly, something that was really close to my heart. So yeah, those are some of the things that I did as president. So with that being said, being the first female Black student union president, I feel like already everybody was looking at the fact that that's what I was. And to an extent, it might have taken away from what I could have done. An expectation that was set maybe on myself, by myself, as well as by the general community at large, and everybody, or the student body, or just in general. I don't know. That's how I think it could have come off. But I believe I worked really hard to do the best I could in that position. Now, having that experience taught me, or gave me a bit of a perspective that I had for my entire life, but I hadn't really sat down and thought about it. Being a female in itself is not easy, right? And we can say that for our male counterparts, but like being a female and on top of that trying to do something that is not expected of you, and in that case starting something first, being something first, attempting something first, can be challenging because it hasn't been done and there is no guide, there's no guide to how it's done because nobody like you has done it before. So I figured, why not sit down and talk to some individuals that have lived it, know it, and learned from it. And so that we can see the perspective of women that have been first, are first, and maybe are influential to our lives. So this podcast is going to have a couple segments where we talk about what these ladies have done, who they are, what they are, how I met them, what they've done in my life, how they've influenced me, but at the same time highlight how amazing they are with the rankings that they hold in this world that doesn't really encourage women to be first. Recently, we did see the very first female vice president in the United States. It blew my mind that is something that had not happened, because in Uganda, we did have a female vice president. Regardless of where we are as a country, that is a huge step that I think, we as a country took to have a female vice president. Still waiting to get a female president. Who knows? But the point is, I would like to sit down and have these conversations with these amazing women and just think about and give us a platform to listen to their stories and where they've come from and how life has challenged them, and just have some fun and have a natural conversation. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm excited to learn and interact with these amazing individuals. We will have other guests as well that might not be female but have been influenced by a first she, and we can learn from that. We can always learn from them and their experiences. All right. Thank you so much for your time. I'm so glad that I've had the chance and that I've put myself in a position where we can do this, where this conversation can be had. Probably you'll hear more about me as we go through these interviews, because I will have a segment in there where our guests can ask me anything. And I think in that segment we will have questions that will be asked that probably will give us an opportunity to learn more about me as a first. So yeah, I'm looking forward to having you join us weekly to listen to what we have in store for you. Appreciate you and stay blessed. Thank you.